Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today we're going to be doing a Jinzo deck profile. So I'm really excited for this one because this deck is a nostalgic deck from way back when, and probably one of the most iconic monsters in the entire history of Yu-Gi-Oh! This card is absolutely bonkers, and I have been waiting on Jinzo support for a long time, because they just keep giving us like one card every like 4 or 5 years for Jinzo, and finally they gave us a set with Duelist Rage of Ra, Legendary Duelist Rage of Ra, to make this deck actually a flushed out archetype, and it is insane. I am really excited to show you guys this deck, but without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out that Patreon down in the description below, because we got some awesome rewards for you guys, like getting your name description for every single video, getting a signed card in the mail, or even getting requested deck profile just like this one every single month that you're a patron, along with test hands. So let's get straight on into this, into the Trap Lord himself, Jinzo. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Jinzo. Jinzo is probably like one of the coolest cards in the entire history of Yu-Gi-Oh! When it's on the field, trap cards cannot be activated, and it negates the effects of all trap cards that are currently face up on the field. This card is really good. It shuts down 1/3 of the entire mechanic of the game, and it's probably one of the creepiest looking cards in the entire game, in my opinion. I remember when Esperoba actually summoned this card, and I was like, whoa, that's a mean looking guy over there. I want one of those cards. And I actually went out to my locals when they were still doing it at Books A Million and traded somebody for one of these actual cards and had it for many years. It actually might be one of these BPT ones. I can't remember. But then we play the new retrain, which is 3 copies of Jinzo the Machine Menace. This card is really insane. It's kind of a throwback to the manga version of this card, that if there is a face-up if a trap is face up on the field or in either player's graveyard, you can special summon this card from your hand. And if you do, it becomes level 6 until the end of the turn. And then during the main phase quick effect, you can tribute this card to special summon a Jinzo from your hand or graveyard. And then you can destroy all trap cards your opponent controls. And if it's set, you reveal it. And you only use the effect of Jinzo the Machine Menace once per turn. This card is really good. For some reason, they made it a level 7. I don't know really why, but I guess it's something to do with the manga, that's what I've heard, but it's a really good card overall to help you get Jinzo out on your side of the field as quickly as possible. We then play a single copy of Psychic Mega Cyber. Psychic Mega Cyber is a retrain of the Fiend Mega Cyber, which is a card that they used during the Esperoba Joey duel. And if your opponent controls more spells and traps than you do, then you can special summon this card from your hand. You can only use the effect of Psychic Mega Cyber once per turn this way, and then when this card declares an attack on an opponent, an effects monster, while you control a Jinzo, you can tribute this card and then place that opponent's monster face up in their spell and trap card zone as a continuous trap. That's really cool to put it in the extra monster, or in the spell and trap card zone as a trap card, because it helps out with your Jinzo cards. We then play my new favorite retrain, which was actually one of my favorite cards as a kid, and that is 3 copies of Psychic Bounder. Psychic Bounder is I loved Reflect Bounder. It was an amazing card, and actually I played it in my deck for a long time when I used to play that crazy goat format deck. This card was really good. But what it does, the retrain of it does, is if this card is normal or special summon, you get to add a Jinzo or a card that specifically lists Jinzo, that's a spell or trap, specifically from your deck to your hand. And when another monster you control is attacked by your opponent's monster before damage calculation, you can destroy both the attacking monster and this card, and you can only use the effect of it once per turn. It's kind of cool because it's a throwback to what happened during Battle City. We then play 3 copies of Jinzo Jector. Jinzo Jector is a really good card in this deck too, because the Jinzo Jector helps you get out your Jinzos even faster, because what it does is its name becomes Jinzo while on the field or in the graveyard. And you contribute this card, add a Jinzo monster from your deck to your hand, and then accept another copy of Jector, then reveal all set cards your opponent controls, and if there's a trap card among them, then you get to special summon Jinzo monsters from your hand up to the number of trap cards revealed. This card is busted by miles. This card in any other archetype would be one of the most crazy cards ever created, just to be able to throw as many Jinzos out of your hand as possible, which is really cool for as many trap cards that your opponent has set. Paleozoic has a really bad time against this deck. We then play 3 copies of Summoner Monk. Summoner Monk is pretty interesting in this deck. because you can just discard a card and then special summon Jinzo Jector or Psychic Bounder or any of those monsters that you particularly need. Usually I summon Psychic Bounder or Jector to be able to go into a rank 4 play, to go into an XZ's play, to particular plays that you need in this deck. But getting out those copies of Psychic Bounder and Jinzo Jector are really important, which is why I play 3 Summoner Monk. We then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom, which just helps round out the monsters to be able to stop our opponent's other cards that they're going to be activating against us. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're playing a single copy of Monster Reborn, which just helps us get our Jinzos back from the graveyard back to our side of the field. This card's insanely good in the deck to be able to get copies like Jinzo the Machine Menace back to our side of the field, or copies of regular old Jinzo. 1 copy of Called by the Grave. Called by the Grave is super helpful to be able to just negate hand traps, and it's just overall a really good card. Mind Control, really, really good card in this deck too, because it actually flows with some of the other monsters, because taking control of opponent's monsters kind of flows directly into what this deck does. We then play a single copy of Foolish Burial. Foolish Burial gets our cards into the graveyard that we need so we can revive them, and just helps us overall with different plays. I then play a single copy of Double or Nothing. Yeah, I did it again. You know, if you see Summoner Monk, you're going to see Double or Nothing usually. But what this card does is basically gives your Utopia 10,000 attack to be able to OTK your opponent. It's really helpful in this deck, and I really like it as a one-of. If you do draw into it, you can always use the Summoner Monk to ditch it to the graveyard, and since we are playing Pot of Extravagance in this deck, you can just ditch it to the graveyard to be able to special summon a level 4 monster from your deck, and then link summon into a monster or XZ summon into something else. We play a single copy of Reasoning because this deck does kind of flow with Reasoning as well, because you play so many different levels in the deck, and getting some of your cards into the graveyard is really nice as well. We then play 3 copies of Cyber Energy Shock. Cyber Energy Shock is actually Jinzo's attack, which is pretty cool, because if you control Jinzo, you can target 1 card on the field and destroy it. Then if it was a trap, you can apply one of these effects. Either negate the effects of 1 face-up card on the field until the end phase of this turn, or all Jinzos gain 800 attack. But the first effect is what's really important of this card, that you can target a card on the field and destroy it. But you can only activate 1 Cyber Energy Shock per turn, but it's a quick play, so you can use it on your turn and then your opponent's turn too. We then play 3 copies of Law of the Cosmos. Law of the Cosmos is really, really good. Because what this card does is your opponent can set 1 trap directly from their hand or deck. Then, if they did, you special summon a Jinzo from your deck. If they didn't, then you get to add a Jinzo or a monster that specifically lists that card in its text from your deck to your hand. Which usually you're going to get the second effect. They're usually not going to just give you a Jinzo on their side of the field, because they can't activate the trap anyways unless they know they can handle the Jinzo. And at that point, you kind of need to be nervous, because either your opponent's nuts or your opponent's got something up their sleeve. We then play 3 copies of Pot of Extravagance, because we don't really care super about the extra deck at all. Jinzo Layered and a couple of other stuff like Utopia Double, we really want to get out. But the other stuff in the extra deck is not super important, so we're not super worried about banishing it. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. Oh my goodness, we're playing traps in a Jinzo deck. What's the world coming to? So here we go. We're going to be playing 3 copies of Crackdown and 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. So the Crackdown really helps out because you can go into some XZ's monsters in the extra deck with Crackdown on the field, which is super helpful. And plus, Jinzo the Machine Menace comes out really, really nice if you have traps, because if there's a face-up trap on the field or in the graveyard, then you can special summon this card from your hand. So Crackdown really helps because it exists on the field. It takes an opponent's monster, you summon out Jinzo the Machine Menace, and you got an opponent's monster and potentially interrupted your opponent on a play, which is super nice. Infinite Impermanence just helps stop your opponent, and if there's a trap in the graveyard, then you can summon out the new Jinzo the Machine Menace. So this card is really good to be able to drop against your opponent. So that's it for the trap cards, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Jinzo Layered. So Jinzo Layered is a really good XZ's monsters that came out of the new Dragons of Legend. What this card does is you can detach a material from this card, the target a face-up monster your opponent controls, take control of it until the end phase of the turn, and if if it cannot activate its attacks or declare an attack. It can't activate effect or declare an attack. And if a trap card's on the field, you can tribute one monster, and if you do, destroy one face-up card on the field, which is pretty good to be able to just pop something. And I never imagined that we'd get a Jinzo XZ's monster, but hey, whatever. It's really cool. We then play 2 copies of Vampire Sheridan. Vampire Sheridan is the card that I was talking about that you wouldn't believe that this deck would make, but it actually makes it very consistently. Because the really cool effect about this card that a lot of people look over is if you use a monster with a level that is owned by your opponent for an XZ summon, you can treat it as a level 6. So Crackdown and Mind Control work very well with this card. Being able to take your opponent's monsters and then go into an XZ's play of Vampire Sheridan is really, really helpful. It also has the ability that once per turn, if a monster is sent from the field to the graveyard by a card effect, or a monster is destroyed by battle and sent to your opponent's graveyard, you can detach a material, then special summon one of those monsters to your field in defense position. Being a 2600 attack point monster is really, really cool. You can also detach a material from this card and target a monster your opponent controls and send it to the graveyard. We then play 2 copies of Utopia Double, just to help OTK your opponent, and 2 copies of Utopia, just to swing for game, which is super nice to be able to hit them for the 10,000 damage. 2 copies of number 60 to double the attack of a monster and dig deeper into the deck, which is really helpful in the deck as well, and being able to draw 2 and discard 1 is really nice. And then we play an Access Code Talker package, which you can drop if you want to. I like it, but if you see something else that you need, these are the cards I really recommend. Any of the Link monsters you can drop for something else. So 1 copy of Access Code Talker just to get you additional pops, Unicorn to be able to bounce stuff, Phoenix to pop spells and traps, and Cerberus to pop monsters. Like I said, these cards are not super pivotal. If they do get banished, it's kind of like, whatever. Really, you're trying to go for layered and take your opponent's monsters with Crackdown and stuff like that. But if you want to go for the Access Code Talker package, it's there if you need it. I do recommend Nightmare Phoenix and Nightmare Unicorn. If you want to bump those up to 2 and drop Cerberus and Access Code Talker to make the deck a little bit more budget, that is totally an option. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below, because we have some awesome awards for you guys. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, because we have all sorts of deck profiles on this channel all the time, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.